Dirty old hags need to be sanitized. You don't belong here. Go home. When I was young, my father passed away, leaving my mother to raise me by herself. There's no way she wasn't sad or lonely after Dad's death. Yet, she never once showed any signs of hardship in front of me. She was always smiling. My father-in-law called my kind mother the bottom of the barrel and splashed beer on her. Is it really so great to work for a big company or to be wealthy? I've been taught something far more important than that. So, you are fired as of today. I reached my limit and blurted out the words I had been holding back. My father-in-law is going to regret this for the rest of his life. Because my true identity is. My name is Jack. I have a girlfriend named Lily, and we've been dating for 3 years. Hey, Jack, does anything look off? Is this outfit okay? Haha, don't worry so much, you're fine. I patted Lily's shoulder lightly a few times to reassure her, as she was visibly nervous. Today, we plan to visit my parents' house to announce our engagement. Don't worry, Mom said she's looking forward to meeting you. Yeah. Lily is beautiful. And many men were drawn to her for her modest personality. I was one of them. So, after various events, I managed to win the position of her boyfriend, and after a smooth dating period, I proposed and we got engaged. When we arrived at my family home, the front door opened as if they had been waiting for us, even before we rang the doorbell. Welcome back, Jack. Hey, Mom, and this is... I wrapped my arm around her shoulder and nudged her forward as I introduced her to my mother, who greeted us. Hello, my name is Lily. Nice to meet you, Lily. I'm Jack's mother, Nancy. You've caught such a beautiful one, Jack. Well done. It was tough, you know. Had a lot of competition. Oh, Jack. Blushing, Lily looked up at me in a mock protest. Good. It seems her nerves have eased a bit. Haha, come on in, both of you. I've been preparing a feast for you today. Encouraged by my mother's lively voice, Lily and I entered the house. We relaxed and enjoyed the meal that Mom had prepared. Lily and my mom have become very close, and they are preparing after-dinner coffee in the kitchen. All right, it's about time. I straightened up and waited for the two to return to the living room. Jack, you'll have some of the sweets Lily brought, right? Yeah, I'll have some. I love the sweets from this place. Thank you, Lily. No, not at all. I'm glad you like them. The table was set with the confectionaries Lily brought as a gift and coffee my mother brewed. Mom, there's something we'd like to tell you today. As I said this, I glanced at Lily. Lily modestly nodded and came to sit beside me on the sofa. Mom, we're getting married. We came today to tell you that. Wow, is that so? I'm so glad. I so am. She must have had a feeling it was coming. Though she wasn't surprised, my mother's voice quivered with overwhelming emotion, and she pressed the corners of her eyes, trying to hold back her tears. Congratulations to both of you, Jack. I'm so proud of how well you've turned out. Yeah, me too. I'm glad I can finally give you peace of mind, Mom. Holding both of my hands firmly, Mom couldn't stop her tears. Lily, who had been quietly observing us, was also moved to tears by my mother's emotion. I hardly have any memories of my father. He died in a car accident before I was old enough to remember. Since then, my mother raised me on her own. Jack, I'll protect you for both me and your father. You'll never be troubled. At my father's funeral, Mom said that as she hugged me tightly. Strangely, this memory has never faded, even now. And true to her word, she always put me first, living her life with that as her priority. After my father passed, the first thing she did was sell the restaurant they ran together. She decided it would be too difficult to manage the business alone while taking care of a young child. With the inheritance from Dad and the money from selling the restaurant, plus various insurance payouts, we should have had enough to live on for a while. But she started working part-time at the restaurant soon after selling it. It was all for me, I guess. Mr. Smith, the owner who bought the restaurant, was very supportive of my mother. Nancy, I'm thinking of creating a kids area inside the restaurant. Really? Jack is still young, and I thought it would be nice to have something like that. Bring him along when it's done. Oh, thank you, Mr. Smith. True to his word, Mr. Smith created a kid space in one corner of the restaurant. This was a kind gesture from Mr. Smith to make sure my mom and I would be comfortable. It might have started for me. But the restaurant, with its new kid space, thrived as it became a place welcomes to families with young children. While Mom worked, I spent my time in the restaurant's kid space. By the time I was in elementary school, I naturally started looking after the children who were left there. Jack, come here next. Let's play Power Rangers. No way. Jack is going to play house with us. Take turns, everyone. Let's all play nicely together. The restaurant had many regulars, and playing with the kids I knew was one of my joys back then. Among them, there was a regular who always brought life to the bustling kid space. Hey, little ones, I brought some snacks for you. Oh, Mike, thank you. The generous regular was a man named Mike Johnson. He was like an ideal father figure to me. Looking back, I feel like I grew up wanting to be a man like him. He was that irreplaceable to me. Jack, I hear you've been doing great lately. Doing what? You've been a big help taking care of the kids here, Nancy told me. Really? Hey, that's good to hear. Keep it up, Jack. You'll grow into a fine adult and be able to help Mom even more than now. Got it? Of course, I promise. All right, then it's a promise, man to man. Sure. I wonder if I've come any closer to fulfilling that promise we made back then. No, I'm probably still far from it. Every time I remember that promise, I feel a strong desire to be even more helpful to Mom. A lot of time has passed since then. Now, as an adult with a stable job, I've met someone who will be my lifelong partner. It's my turn to support Mom now. Mom, thank you for raising me all these years. From now on, I'll be the one supporting you. What are you talking about? Marriage life is tough, you know. If anything happens, just rely on me. You're my son, after all. Mom. And Lily, you too. Don't hesitate, okay? You're going to be my daughter. Yes. Thank you so much. Congratulations to both of you. You're going to have a wedding, right? I'm looking forward to it. Mom smiled happily, with tears streaming down her face. I'm determined to do my utmost so that this smile never fades. I made that firm resolve. As I drove away from my family home, I noticed Lily intently gazing at my profile from the passenger seat. Lily, is something wrong? Jack, you know. Lily seemed to be struggling to find the right words. What's wrong? Did something happen with Mom? No, it's not that. Your mom was really nice to me. I love her. It's not about that, it's just that. Choosing her words carefully, Lily pondered for a while before finally speaking up. We're going to visit my parents tomorrow, right? Of course. Oh, I'm kind of nervous now. I understand how you felt today. Wait, are your parents strict or something? Not really. It's just that I want you to be careful around my dad. What do you mean by that? You see, my dad might say something inappropriate, so I'm apologizing in advance, Jack, if he makes you feel uncomfortable tomorrow. I'm really sorry. Lily's voice faded into a whisper, and her shoulders trembled slightly as she apologized. Don't worry, whatever happens, my feelings towards you won't change, so it's okay. Yeah. Lily nodded with a face that couldn't hide her anxiety and looked down. Visiting her parents might not go as smoothly as I thought. Anyway, I swore to myself that I would do anything to avoid making Lily sad. The next day, the visit to Lily's parents went smoother than I had anticipated. I was quite on edge, fearing something terrible might happen, but contrary to my worries, Lily's parents were friendly and talkative. However, there was something that bothered me a bit. Looking back, I felt a sense of discomfort from the very beginning of our interaction. Nice to meet you. I'm Jack, and I'm in a relationship with Lily. Hey, glad you could make it. I'm Lily's father, Robert. Nice to meet you. So, which university did you attend? It surely couldn't be the same as mine. I was completely taken aback by the sudden question about my educational background and froze for a moment. Dad, I always tell you to stop that. Really, Robert, that's rude. Jack, I'm so sorry. Please, come in. Lily and her mother quickly intervened, preventing the topic from escalating further. But I noticed something. Lily's father, Robert, seemed to have a look in his eyes that somewhat looked down on people. Jack, are you okay? Oh, yeah. Really? Did my dad say anything rude to you when I wasn't looking? It's okay. I did think the way your father spoke was a bit concerning, but I'm sorry. Don't apologize. It's not your fault, right? Look, we have a meeting with the wedding planner tomorrow. Let's just focus on the happy things. Yeah, Jack, thank you. Lily, who had been downcast all day, finally managed a small smile. With that, having successfully completed greeting both families, we steadily proceeded with the wedding preparations. And finally, the big day arrived. Relatives, acquaintances, and friends from both sides gathered at the venue, surrounding us with warm congratulations. Jack, congratulations. To see you like this, all grown up, I just... Don't cry, Mom. The ceremony has just begun. Mom couldn't stop her tears of emotion even before the ceremony started. It must be because of all the trouble I've caused her. Seeing her tears, I felt even more strongly that I needed to support her from now on. As the ceremony went on smoothly and we moved on to the reception, friends came over to chat. Jack, come on, drink up. Let's toast. Hey, are you drunk already? Shut up. You're marrying such a beautiful wife. I'm so jealous. I exchanged drinks with my friends who came over with beer bottles in hand. There seemed to be a bit of envy in their words, but no doubt they were happy for me. Lily, congratulations. You look absolutely stunning in your bridal gown. Thank you. Hey, can you come now? Let's go take a picture with everyone over there. Yes. Lily, surrounded by her female friends, glanced over here briefly. Go ahead, we have plenty of time. Thank you, Jack. I'll be back soon. I casually watched as Lily left her seat to join her friends. Seeing her happily taking photos and laughing with her close friends made me feel truly grateful that the ceremony was going well. Lily, let me help with those photos. Come on, gather around everyone. Lily's father also seemed to be in a very good mood today. His face was flushed, perhaps from the alcohol, and he was in high spirits. I hope everything goes well today. I couldn't help but mutter to myself. From his behavior, it seemed he wasn't a bad person at heart. I silently hoped the ceremony would conclude without any issues. As the ceremony neared its end, it was time for my speech. The MC handed me the mic, and I stood up amidst applause. Thank you all for gathering here today. I would like to take this moment to express my gratitude. I stood up straight with Lily beside me. Then, I made my way towards my mother, who was watching from a distance. The spotlight followed me, illuminating both me and my mother. "Mom, thanks to your love and care, I've made it this far." "Jack, what is this? I wasn't expecting this." The letter to my mother was a surprise that Lily and I had planned. Once again, Mom's tears flowed like a waterfall. It was so touching and funny at the same time that I supported my mother's shoulder while laughing. "Mom, don't cry so much. There's more to come." I know. Soft laughter and the sound of people sniffling quietly filled the venue. Lily, left at the main table, was also busily dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. "Ever since Dad passed away, you raised me all by yourself. You are the person I respect the most in the world. Thank you, truly, for everything up till now. From here on, it's my turn to support you. Please look forward to me returning the favor. Your son, Jack." After finishing the letter, I gently hugged Mom. "Thanks, Mom. Jack, you've really grown up to be such a fine person." The venue was filled with applause, enveloped in a warm atmosphere. When did she become so small? Holding my crying mom, that's what I deeply felt. My speech had just ended, and the venue was wrapped in a congenial atmosphere, when suddenly, "Ahem, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I'd like to say as well." Unexpectedly, Robert stood up to speak. Lily, did you know about this?" "No, nothing at all. Should we stop him? Dad seems drunk, and who knows what he might say." "No, let's not stir the unnecessary pot." It was a celebration, and I couldn't imagine he'd do anything drastic in front of so many people. While checking with the MC, I handed the mic over to Robert. At that moment, I had no way of knowing it would turn out to be the worst decision. Standing upright, Robert smiled to the guests before starting his speech. "Thank you all for gathering here today for my daughter Lily's sake. Dad, it's not just for me." "It's okay, Lily. I don't mind." His way of speaking as if I didn't exist was still somewhat tolerable. Welcoming an unusually indignant Lily, I watched Robert's speech unfold. "In our family, we've always produced excellent individuals, not just my daughter Lily, but myself as well, and of course, all the relatives gathered here today." The atmosphere started to feel uneasy. Robert's speech turned into an endless boast about himself, changing the mood in the room. "Yes, we are elites, but what about the groom's mother, a single mother working part-time in a restaurant?" The venue's atmosphere grew tense. "Dad, how could you say that? I can't believe it. Jack, I'm so sorry. Oh, what should I say to your mother? I'll go to the MC right now and get the mic." As Lily frantically tried to intervene, Robert brusquely moved towards my mother. What? People like you are a nuisance to society and a burden to our daughter. Please stay away from us from now on." In that moment, Robert uncaringly splashed his beer onto my mother's face. Gasps and screams filled the venue. "What are you doing? Don't you get it? People like you are filthy and need to be sanitized. You don't belong here, so leave." Time seemed to stand still in the venue. The guests were in shock, and my beer-drenched mother was frozen in disbelief. "Ha ha, how about that? Are you surprised? What are you thinking? Please stop, I beg you." Robert, grinning triumphantly, was desperately being held back by Lily's mother. "Oh no, what a disaster." "Lily." Supporting Lily, who had collapsed to the ground, I whispered in her ear. "Lily, I'm sorry, I can't hold back any longer." My grip on Lily's shoulder tightened with anger. Lily's hand gently covered mine. "Jack, it's okay. I'm your wife from today. I'm no longer his daughter, so don't hold back." "Lily, I'm sorry." "It's okay, really." As I apologized, Lily shook her head, assuring me with her gesture. I had no more doubts. Leaving Lily behind, I swiftly made my way to Robert. Grabbing his arm, I snatched the mic from him. "What are you doing? How rude to just barge in like that." Ignoring Robert's red-faced protests, I handed the mic back to the MC. "Hey, are you listening? What do you think you're doing barging in like that?" "That's my line. What were you thinking, throwing beer on my mother like that?" I went over to my mom and handed her a handkerchief. "Here, Mom, use this." "Jack, I'm sorry, this happened. I'm sorry for being such a mother." "Mom, it's not your fault, so don't ever apologize again." "Jack." Mom's face was red, trembling, and she was crying. These weren't tears of joy like before. They must be tears of shame and frustration. Like mother, like son, a son as impolite as his bottom-dwelling mother. While saying this, Robert grabbed my shoulder to turn me towards him. "Hey, you better apologize now if you know what's good for you. If I wanted to, I could even call off your marriage to Lily." "Is that so?" Rage was bubbling up from deep within me. I shrugged off Robert's hand, grabbed him by the collar with all my might, and pulled him close. "Well then, you are fired as of today." "What? I'm fired? What are you on about? You can't do anything like that." "Unfortunately for you, I can." I let go of Robert, took out a business card from my tuxedo pocket, and handed it to him. "Please have a look at this." "This is a business card from our parent company. No way, you can't be." Robert's face turned pale as he held the business card. "No way, this can't be real. How can someone like you be an employee of our parent company and the head of HR?" Flustered and his eyes darting around, I sighed deeply, utterly astounded by Robert's reaction. The opportunity for me to join my current company came when I was in my senior year of high school. At that time, I was still working part-time at the restaurant where my mom worked and was as close as ever to our regular customer, Mike. "Hey, Jack, what are you planning for your future?" "I'm thinking about getting a job. It might be tough with just a high school diploma, but I don't want to be a burden on my mom anymore." "I see. Well then, let me lend a hand." "What?" "Jack, come work for my company." "Your company, Mike? Are you some kind of company president?" "Haha, well, yes. I may not look like it, but I'm quite capable. What do you think, impressed?" "Yeah, impressed. Here I thought you were just a desperate man trying to woo my mom while keeping up the bachelor facade, but you were actually trying to win me over first." "Hey, Jack, that's going too far, you little." With a mischievous smile, Mike playfully ruffled my hair. "But seriously, I want to hire you. I've seen how you work here, and there's no doubt about it. I won't treat you badly. Jack, come work for me." "Mike, thank you. I'll do my best." And that's how I joined my current company straight out of high school. Meeting Lily was indeed work-related, but it was ironic that Robert happened to be an employee of a subsidiary of Mike's company, purely by chance. I actually wanted to give you my business card when I first came to greet you, but you were so engrossed in your blogging. I didn't want to spoil your mood, so I refrained from doing so. Oh no. Unfortunately, Mr. Johnson, our president, had some urgent business and couldn't attend today." "What, then that means?" "But I'll be sure to report your foolish actions today in great detail." "No way." Robert's face went from pale blue to ghostly white, and he crumpled to his knees as if drained of blood. Yet, my anger hadn't subsided. I approached Robert and whispered threateningly in his ear. "Be prepared. Mr. Johnson has a soft spot for my mom." Eek. With a pathetic gasp, Robert looked around in a panic. All the guests were giving him disdainful looks, frowning at his behavior. "Why am I being looked at like this? Damn it!" he muttered bitterly as he stumbled out of the venue. Watching his retreating figure, Lily, accompanied by her mother, rushed to us. "Jack, Nancy, are you okay? I'm terribly sorry for the trouble my husband has caused." "Nancy, I'm so sorry. I'm truly sorry." "Please, don't apologize. It's not your fault, my dear. And Lily, no more tears, please. A beautiful lady like you shouldn't spoil her looks." Mom comforted them with a gentle smile. Then, she cast a quick glance in my direction. "Now, you're the groom. Take charge and smooth things over. Don't make your bride cry on your wedding day." "Yes, I understand." I was taken aback for a moment. Mom really is a strong person. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the unsightly scene. We still have time. Please continue to enjoy the festivities," I declared, trying to lighten the mood. Applause gradually began from my friends and then spread to the families. Despite the unexpected incident, the warmth of the guests and, above all, my mom's strength, helped us bring the wedding ceremony to a successful close. Some time has passed since the commotion at the wedding. Since then, Robert has become an outcast among relatives, was abandoned by his wife, and ended up divorced. "Jack, I'm really sorry. I know apologies aren't enough, but I'll leave his fate in your hands. Please, don't hold back on him." Lily's mother, looking considerably worn out, came to apologize again later. Despite feeling slightly sorry for her, I didn't go easy on Robert's case. Or rather, I couldn't. "Hey, have you heard about Robert?" "Yay, that story, right. He ruined his daughter's wedding and got on the bad side of the parent company's president. His foolish behavior at the wedding quickly became the talk of the company. Eventually, having no place left, Robert opted for voluntary resignation. Man, it was a relief he quit on his own. No hassle with the firing." "Whoa, Mike, you aren't smiling in your eyes, you know." Most likely, the one who orchestrated and pushed Robert to the edge was none other than our president, aka Mike. I earnestly thought to myself that he was someone I should never mess with. Time has flown, and nearly a year has passed since then. A baby boy, who resembles me a lot, was born to Lily and me. It looks like he's fallen asleep. He's been crying so much, must be tired. Every time I see our healthy child's sleeping face, I deeply feel the reality of being a father. This little one really looks just like you did as a baby, Jack. Wait, Lily, I'll bring the photo album. Yeah, let me see it. Stop it, Mom. It's embarrassing. Now, we're living with my mom in my family home. I have a beloved wife and son, and my mom has a dear daughter-in-law and grandson. We're spending our days as a happy family. Feel free to take my wallet. After 25 years of employment, I was living a poor life with monthly take-home pay of only $1,500. I met an old lady one day. The runaway old lady claimed to be penniless. Unable to ignore someone in a worse situation than myself, I decided to give her all my savings. Then a few days later, I unexpectedly reunited with her in a way I never imagined. As of today, you are fired from this factory. Afterwards, my life took a complete 180-degree turn. My name is Kevin. I am a self-admittedly dull man who currently works on a factory line. I am turning 40 this year. Due to my low salary of $1,500 a month at this age, I live a modest life in a small apartment, no wife, no kids, leading a single life. Although I have no family, there is one being I can call family. Rotisserie, I'm home. Meow. I pick up rotisserie. The one who always greets me when I come home is a ginger cat named Rotisserie. I found this kitten abandoned and took it home not long ago. The name Rotisserie came about because I picked up this cat on my way back from buying chicken at a supermarket. I debated between rotisserie and burrito, but now I'm glad I chose this name. Though still a kitten, rotisserie is in its mischievous phase, causing me quite a bit of trouble. So, today, once again, rotisserie has escaped from the apartment. Taking my eyes off him for just a moment, he seemed to have dashed out through the window, and in a panic, I rushed out of the apartment and ran in the direction rotisserie had escaped. With my usual lack of exercise, I couldn't keep up with the kitten's sprint and was panting heavily as I shouted, "Rotisserie, where are you?" I received odd looks from passers-by, wondering if I should have stuck with other name as I searched. A park a little beyond my apartment caught my eye. Thinking there was a chance, I peered into the park. There, on a bench in the park, was an old lady, with rotisserie being petted by her. "Rotisserie, so you were here," I blurted out loud, and the old lady, seeing me, hurried to leave. Meow. However, it seems rotisserie had taken a liking to this old lady. Following her slowly, rotisserie rubbed its body against the old lady's leg as she stopped. The old lady looked troubled. Seeing rotisserie, who usually shies away from people, this attached was impressive, and while admiring this, I picked up rotisserie. "Sorry about my cat." "Oh no, I'm the one who should apologize. I petted him without knowing he was someone's cat. I'm sorry." The old lady, who spoke with a gentle voice, exuded a certain grace. Yet, despite the cold, her clothes were tattered. In the midst of winter in January, she wore a clearly worn-out apron and sandals, suitable only for a quick errand, without a coat. She looked as if she had left home in a hurry. Clearly, she seemed cold. Coincidentally, I too had rushed out of my house in a hurry chasing after rotisserie, feeling cold and almost nothing but what I had on. "Rather than here, why don't you come to my place? My name is Dorothy Miller." I learned that Dorothy had been living with her son and his wife, but had impulsively left home after a minor argument. She had left her phone at home and, although she thought she had her wallet with her, it seemed she had lost it at some point. I guess this is what they mean by when it rains, it pours. After leaving, she couldn't bring herself to go back home and wandered aimlessly until she found that park and decided to rest on a bench. That's when rotisserie came by her side, followed by me. "Your home is near Solar Station. That's 6 stations away from here, isn't it?" I was genuinely impressed by the distance she had walked. "I must be bothering you, Kevin. I shouldn't be stubborn and should just go home now," Dorothy said, standing up, but it was nearly time for the last train. Since it's a 20-minute walk from this apartment to the station, it would be impossible for her to get home today. I considered taking a taxi, but taxis are only available at the station square. To make matters worse, I dropped my phone yesterday while trying to take a photo of rotisserie, and now the screen is completely shattered. I can't make calls, send emails, or use messaging apps anymore. Since nobody contacts me anyway, I had planned to get it repaired after work tomorrow, so my phone is currently out of service. Public phones in the area have been removed over time, so I decided to make her an offer. "Dorothy, would you like to stay here tonight?" "Oh no, I couldn't possibly impose on you to that extent." "But Dorothy, you don't have any cash on you right now, right?" "Embarrassingly, I don't have much on me either." I also mentioned my broken phone and that I couldn't do anything until tomorrow. "It's cold this season, and it would be terrible if something happened to you on your way home. Besides, rotisserie." Meow. Rotisserie seemed to have taken a real liking to Dorothy, staying on her lap even after we got inside. It was going to be tough to get him to move. "Well, it seems rotisserie is also saying I should stay, so maybe I will take you up on your offer just for tonight." "Yes, please do." Fortunately, I had an extra bed at a spare room of my home, so I gave it to Dorothy. I let her rest there. I do have fights with my son like this sometimes, but this time it turned into quite a heated argument, and I was cooking, so I just left with my apron on, which is embarrassing at my age. Dorothy chuckled. It's nice to have a family you can argue with. I'm envious. Kevin, how about your parents? Oh, my parents have both passed away. Oh my, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. No, please don't apologize. Saying that made Dorothy look somewhat relieved. Then, I decided to share a bit about my past. My parents passed away just before I graduated from middle school, and as their only son, I inherited everything, including their debts. The debt was from a shady loan company, and the interest was mercilessly high. The company's representative said, if you can pay back the $30,000 your father owed, we'll cut you some slack on the interest. So I decided to start working right after middle school. At the time, with no relatives to rely on, that was the only option I thought I had. I found a job at this factory, which hired middle school graduates, and have been here ever since. Now a 25-year veteran. Kevin, after 25 years on the same factory line, you could be a supervisor or something, couldn't you? Are you a supervisor? No way, I'm still a regular employee because I only finished middle school and have no further education. What? That's ridiculous. Really? The factory manager, Jake, and the current supervisor, Ryan, always say, you'll never get promoted because you only finished middle school. You'll be a regular employee forever with this salary. Dorothy's eyes widened. By the way, how much is your salary? It's been about $1,500 take home since I joined. I've been able to keep that amount since I finished paying off my parents' debt. While paying off the debt, I allocated $200 each month to repayments. Despite barely making ends meet with rent and food expenses, I've managed to get by. Given my circumstances, marriage was out of the question. Before I knew it, I was 40, with only Rotisserie, the rescued cat, as my family. Dorothy listened to my story, nodding and occasionally expressing surprise, proving to be a good listener. I wondered if this is what it would have been like if my mother were still here. I'm sorry for talking about such things. It must not have been very interesting for you to listen to. No, I asked you to tell me. It's incredible that you've been working so diligently and even paid off your parents' debts. That's nothing. I think the kind person was the man from the loan company. I just did what I had to do. However, being praised for the first time made me feel unexpectedly bashful. After that, Dorothy and I went to bed, and since I had work the next day, we left the house together. Rotisserie didn't want to leave Dorothy until the very end, and it was a struggle to separate them. Rotisserie will be in a bad mood all day today. Then, Dorothy and I made our way to the local station before work, and I stopped by a drugstore. I withdrew all the balance from the ATM there. It was only about $20 left, but it should cover the train fare. Dorothy, you'll need some cash to get home, so please take my wallet with you. What? Surprised by Dorothy's reaction, I managed to smile. It's not much, but I think it should be enough to get you home. No, absolutely not. You can't just hand over your wallet to someone you hardly know. But you don't have any pockets in the clothes you're wearing now, Dorothy, and it's better to have a wallet than to carry cash in hand. It would be terrible if you were robbed while holding the money. But what about your living expenses? I've already accounted for that. My payday is coming up soon, so it'll be fine. After some back and forth, Dorothy finally agreed and accepted my wallet. And until the very end, she kept saying thank you before disappearing into the station. When I returned home from work, Rotisserie was sitting sadly on the bed Dorothy had used. But since Dorothy has her own home to return to, I couldn't keep her here. Given that Rotisserie had grown so attached to her, I had no hesitation in giving her my entire wallet. Well, payday is the day after tomorrow, and I guess I can survive without eating for a couple of days. A few days after meeting Dorothy, I went back to my routine of work and home, cherishing my time with Rotisserie. The 2 days until payday were tough, but I managed with just water, and after that, my salary came in so I could eat properly and get my phone repaired. I was living an unremarkable life, and this is exactly what my life was like. Kevin, I need to talk to you. One day, out of the blue, Jake called me over, which took me by surprise. Jake had joined this factory a few years ago. Though he's a bit younger than me at 38, he looks down on someone like me, an older but regular employee, because of his position as a factory manager. Especially after knowing my background, he would only ever insult me with remarks like dropout, older but still a regular employee, and guy with a $1,500 salary. I don't know if it was his way of blowing off steam, but he kept up his petty harassment, and it was taking its toll on me. But since he's the factory manager, I couldn't afford to resist and risk losing my job, so I just let it slide. Naturally, when Jake said he needed to talk, it made me wonder what it could possibly be about. But it also crossed my mind that he could actually have a serious conversation with me. The place I was called to was the factory's reception room. I rarely enter there, so my heart was pounding unnecessarily. Could it be? Am I about to be fired? I couldn't think of anything I had done wrong, but sudden layoffs are always a possibility. If that happened, would I be able to find another job right away? And what about Reddit's food as he grows? With these thoughts, I opened the door to the reception room, where Jake, an elegant older woman, and a man in a suit were seated across from each other. The man seemed to be about my age. I didn't recognize him. As I tentatively said, "Excuse me," the woman looked up. Seeing her face, I was stunned. It was Dorothy. Dorothy. Why does this dropout know your name? I had a little encounter with him the other day. It's none of your business. When Dorothy said that coldly, Jake awkwardly looked away. Kevin, I really appreciated your help the other day. Thank you so much. No, Dorothy, now in a sophisticated suit, looked entirely different from the apron-clad figure I had met before, embodying the image of a female president. The man about my age, sitting next to Dorothy, stood up and thanked me. Kevin, thank you for taking care of my mother the other day. Thanks to you, she safely returned home, and our family is relieved. No, please, you don't have to thank someone like me. Being thanked so politely by someone who clearly held a higher status made me extremely nervous. But to give away your wallet like that was all I had at the time. Even so, it's not something many people would do, giving away their entire wallet to a stranger. You think so too, right? It's not something easily done. Dorothy and the man were saying this to me, but I was just filled with embarrassment. Dorothy, why are you here, and who is this man? As I finally managed to say that, Jake exclaimed, What? You don't know who these people are? I know who Dorothy is, but I don't know the man, I honestly replied. That's when Jake sighed. This is what I hate, dealing with dropouts like you. I'm sorry, everyone, for his ignorance. He's a dropout and doesn't know much about the world, Jake said. These people are the president and chairman of our parent company. You're living in shame not knowing even that, Jake scolded me. I was shocked by Jake's words. Wait, Dorothy is the president? No, I used to be the president, but now I'm the chairman. This son of mine is the president. The man was Dorothy's son and the president of the parent company. I had never met or even known the names of such high-ranking individuals from the parent company, given our lack of connection. I'm sorry, I really didn't know. I wondered if I had said or done anything disrespectful to Dorothy that day. Was it even rude in the first place to have her stay at my humble home? The thought made my face drain of color. There's a reason we asked you to come here today, Dorothy said. She looked at me with a serious expression. You are being terminated from this factory as of today. Oh no. I knew it would. Will the termination process take long? Dorothy asked Jake. No, if it's an order from you, I can process it immediately, right now, effective today. All right, that's fine then. Thank you. Jake quickly stood up and left the reception room. As he left, he muttered, finally rid of that dropout, but his words didn't register with me. The shock of being fired was greater than anything else. Within an hour, Jake had truly terminated me from the factory, effective today. Here's your termination notice. Don't ever come back to our factory. That's what Jake said as he handed me the termination notice. Kevin, let's go. Please, come with me. Dorothy called out to me, still in a daze, and left with Mr. Miller. I hurriedly followed them. She said, get in, and I got in with them in the black car that Dorothy and the others had gotten into. Where are we going? We're going to our company. Your company as in? The parent company of this factory. The president, her son, gave a reassuring smile. Minutes later, I found myself in a very comfortable car, on my way to the parent company for the first time. And the place they took me to was the presidential office on the top floor. Still in my work clothes, I was led there and told to sit on a plush sofa, which I did without objection. The women I saw before entering the president's office, probably secretaries, seemed to give me a cold look as if wondering, why is someone like him here? Feeling out of place and fidgety, Dorothy spoke up. The day you handed over your wallet, I thought to myself, what an incredible person he must be. Incredible. I'm not. The truth is, people generally only think about themselves. When I was running the company, I saw so many people like that. I just assumed everyone was the same. But Kevin, you were different. You helped a complete stranger, offered me a place to stay, and in the end, even gave me your wallet containing all your savings. Thinking about it now, maybe what I did was a bit odd. But then again, you were really in trouble at that time. I really wanted to thank you, so I hope you don't mind, but I looked inside the wallet you gave me. Your driver's license was in there, so I ended up finding out about you. I was surprised to learn you worked at one of our subsidiary factories. That was a surprise for me too. From what you told me before, it sounded like your work environment wasn't the best, but after seeing Jake's attitude today, I got a pretty good idea of how you were being treated at the factory. Someone as sincere as you shouldn't have to endure that. You need to know your own worth. Dorothy said that with a sincere look, and it warmed my heart. I had always thought I was a person of no value, so it was the first time someone spoke so passionately about me. I couldn't help but deeply admire Dorothy as a person. Kevin, I'm going to hire you as my personal assistant at our company. You'll be paid a salary befitting the position, so don't worry. What? I couldn't help but let out an incredulous sound again. I believe in you. You have the kind of reliability that is invaluable in a person. Learn things you couldn't learn at the factory under my guidance. Refusing Dorothy's offer seemed rude after everything she said. And I felt that I would indeed learn a lot from this new opportunity. A few days later, I found myself back at the factory where I used to work. Seeing me, Jake approached with a smug, malicious grin. What is a dropout like you wearing a suit here? Is this some kind of cosplay? Sorry, but we're not hiring mid-career. Yes, today I was at the factory dressed in a suit. Yes, I'm here on Ms. Miller's behalf. This is a document from her. What? On Ms. Miller's behalf? Yes, I've been working as her secretary since the other day. What? After learning that I was working as her secretary, Jake barged into our company, proclaiming, if a dropout like him can do it, I can do it even better. Hire me as an apprentice secretary. He was repeatedly escorted out by security. As this behavior persisted, Dorothy eventually appeared and dismissed him, stating, we don't need someone like you who looks down on my benefactor. Following that, Jake was demoted. relegated to just another worker on a factory line. It was Mr. Miller and Ms. Miller who decided that Jake was not suitable for the position of factory manager. Since then, I've been working hard every day as Ms. Miller's apprentice secretary. My salary increased significantly, and I was able to move to a better place. I even managed to get a full set of suits, marking a complete turnaround in my life. Though every day was challenging with so much to learn, it was incredibly fulfilling. Returning home to Rotisserie, my hairy companion, and being able to take him for grooming made my days even better. One day, Ms. Miller introduced me to a woman. She's the daughter of a friend of mine, around your age. She's a single mother raising her son, and she's a great person, and I think you'll get along well. To Ms. Miller, who was somewhat smirking, I indirectly declined, saying, "At this age, now of all times." But she insisted, "Just meet her." Apparently, Ms. Miller enjoyed playing matchmaker. The woman turned out to be Olivia, a classmate from my middle school. When I heard the name, I wondered if it could be Kevin. It's been so long. Olivia. Our reunion as former classmates led to a lively conversation. Olivia had married at 21, had a son at 22, and soon after discovered her husband's infidelity and divorced. She had been working hard ever since, juggling work and raising her son, and time had flown by. And then, Olivia showed me a photo of a white cat. She's keeping it at home now. My cat's name is Snowball. I was torn between Cheese and Snowball, but I chose Snowball because of her beautiful white color, like yogurt. "My son always teases me about my terrible naming sense," she said, so I showed her a photo of Rotisserie. I actually have a cat too, named Rotisserie. I debated between Rotisserie and Burrito for his name. Hearing that, Olivia laughed. "Kevin, your naming sense is quite something too." As Rotisserie and Snowball started spending time together, Olivia and I naturally grew closer. I also became good friends with Olivia's son, Tyler, and the three of us often went out for meals together. "Mom, I'm about to become an adult. It's time for you to start living your own life," Tyler said to Olivia after one of our meals together. Then Tyler turned to me. "Kevin, my mom has worked tirelessly every day to raise me. I want her to live her own life from now on. She seems so happy when she's with you. If it's not too much to ask, please be with her," Tyler requested, and Olivia was moved to tears. "I ask the same of you, please," I replied. Since then, the three of us, along with Rotisserie and Snowball, have been living happily in a cozy house. Occasionally, Ms. Miller and Mr. Miller would visit, and each time, our home would be filled with laughter and joy. I could never have imagined that simply helping someone would lead to such appreciation and change my life so drastically. I feel incredibly fortunate to have met people who value me so much. Ms. Miller always says, "It's a bit late, but this is your reward for living an honest life. And you should have confidence in yourself because you are truly worth it," she would add. While it's still hard for me to have confidence in myself, I am truly grateful to have people who value me that much. With the intent of repaying Ms. Miller and the others for their kindness, I am determined to continue doing my best. I want to live with them. It was this simple sentence that would change our lives forever. I looked directly into the eyes of the sister's grandmother and said, "Excuse me for being straightforward, but would it be all right for my wife and I to adopt Emma and Claire, and take full responsibility for raising them?" At these words, not only did she, but also the sisters listening from behind, were visibly shocked. It's natural to be suspicious of someone who says such a thing just after meeting them, and I didn't expect immediate approval. Of course, I intended to consult the proper authorities and proceed with the necessary procedures. Somehow, I just couldn't bear the thought of leaving these two alone, because I saw my past self in them. And 6 months later, the situation took a dramatic turn. I've been thinking. I want to entrust my granddaughters to you. My name is Nathan, a 29-year-old office worker. I married Elizabeth 2 years ago. We don't have any children. We met in a hospital. At the time, I was 25 and fell in love at first sight. In the hospital store, she was lining up at the register with a sickeningly sweet cream donut and an overly sweet milk tea. For some reason, I found myself speaking to her as she left the store. "Excuse me, could I get your contact information?" Assuming I was just another flirt, she naturally brushed me off. I ended up exposing myself in an awkward attempt. However, I couldn't give up. I wanted to know more about her. Before I knew it, I found myself visiting the store during work breaks. I'm a regular employee at a pharmaceutical company, often visiting this hospital for work. After 12 p.m., joining the queue of patients and doctors buying lunch, I'd always spot her. Looking back, my behavior might have seemed stalker-like and creepy. Approaching her with an invisible tail wagging, I must have looked like a pathetic dog to others. Perhaps due to my persistence, she gradually started to indulge in small talk with me. A few months after meeting her, she questioned me. "Why do you pay so much attention to me? From any angle, you look younger than me." She said something like that. By then, I still didn't know her name. And she didn't know mine. We just happened to meet and converse casually. That's the kind of relationship we had. I've never really thought about the age thing. It all started because I thought your profile was beautiful. Oh, and that strange combination. Doesn't it give you indigestion? I said, pointing at the donut and milk tea she always bought. She puffed her cheeks in complaint. "Shut up. My work requires a lot of brain power and is exhausting, so my body craves something sweet. Nathan, don't overwork yourself either. Without health, you can't even work." With that, she handed me back a business card I had dropped. I'll never forget the moment my name was first called. As I continued my relentless pursuit, she eventually revealed her name to be Elizabeth. From there, Elizabeth and I began to meet privately, leading me to propose marriage when I was 27. People sure have strange tastes. That was Elizabeth's response to my proposal. Let's return to the present. I'm now 29, but Elizabeth, being 10 years my senior, is currently 39. Her hesitance to open up to me was probably due to rage. Indeed, when I proposed dating her, she said something along these lines. "I'm honestly too busy to even think about dating," which usually makes most guys think I'm being conceited, and it ticks them off when I say it. But it's the truth, and I felt it was something I needed to convey. Moreover, I'm past the age considered ideal for pregnancy and childbirth, so having kids might not be in the cards for me. None of that mattered to me. When we first met, I honestly had no idea what she did for a living. But seeing her in a lab coat, working night shifts, and barely having time to sleep, it was clear she was a doctor. That's what I thought. In fact, when she met me, she was a surgeon. I figured she must be busy, but then she suddenly switched specialties one day. I wondered where to, and it turned out to be otolaryngology. It was a completely different field, so I was surprised when I heard about it. But the reason made sense. I've always wanted to pursue otolaryngology, but I thought having surgical experience would reassure patients in cases where surgery is needed. Actually, my father runs an otolaryngology clinic back home, she said. My father-in-law's skills were astonishing. Though the sign said otolaryngology, he could also see patients for internal and general surgery. Sometimes, he could even handle cases that required oral surgery, thanks to his experience. Of course, a clinic with such a skilled doctor was always packed. They start handing out appointment numbers just after 8 a.m., but it's not unusual to see people lining up before 7 a.m. on Saturdays. Even though they only do consultations in the morning on Saturdays, They sometimes stay open until past 6 p.m., and during peak allergy seasons, they can be seeing patients until almost 9 p.m. Now we've put some limits in place. Though consultations start at 9 a.m., you can't get a morning slot if you arrive at that time. If my father, who has been working hard for the community, were to leave, the patients would be in trouble, right? That's why I'm aiming to be the next trustworthy clinic director, she explained. I fell for Elizabeth all over again. I sort of just graduated from high school and university and landed a job at a major company through connections with Professor Anderson from my seminar, who had ties to pharmaceutical companies. But Elizabeth, she had a clear vision of what she wanted to do and was working towards it. I wholeheartedly wanted to support her in achieving things I could never dream of. That's why I thought it wouldn't be so bad to just spend our lives together as a couple. At 29, many of my peers were getting married and having kids, but I didn't envy them. Having Elizabeth, my beloved wife, was more than enough for me. Then, one day, Elizabeth had just quit the hospital she was working at to take over her father's clinic as the next director. Because of that, her days became incredibly busy, and she was so exhausted she had bags under her eyes. The clinic was popular to start off with, but now it was Elizabeth and her father, who mainly supported her in consultations. And the place was in chaos with all the patients who had heard the news. I just wanted to take a walk for a change of pace, she said. So, we decided to go for a walk at night. Lately, the daffodils had started to bloom, and the mornings and evenings felt a bit more comfortable. While enjoying the pleasant night breeze during our walk, we noticed something unfamiliar sitting in a corner of the park near our house. It looked like a cardboard box. Maybe some neighborhood kids were playing and made a cardboard house. I was about to ignore it when my sight moved slightly. Elizabeth also looked at it curiously. Then, the box swayed from side to side again. There was no wind blowing. That meant something alive was inside. It could be a stray cat, I thought. As I approached and peered inside, I was surprised by what I saw. Inside, instead of a dog or a cat, there were 2 girls with the same face. They were wrapped in newspaper, using it as a blanket, and next to them were 2 backpacks that seemed to belong to them. By their looks, they were definitely elementary school students. Hey, what are you doing out here at this time? Are you playing make-believe? Your parents must be worried, so we need to contact, well, the police, maybe. As I reached for my phone, one of the girls said, "Please don't call the police." Why not? I don't know about your parents, but surely this is. If our parents get arrested, we'll be in trouble. We'd become children of criminals. She said with a clarity that seemed beyond her years, making me feel uneasy. The girl who spoke to me seemed composed, but her sister was just fidgeting, not even trying to look at us. I was at a loss for what to do, but leaving them here and going back home as if nothing happened didn't sit right with me. So, I suggested, "You might catch a cold staying out here, and there could be some strange people around. How about you come to our place for now?" Elizabeth immediately retorted, "That makes us sound like the suspicious ones." Thinking about it, I couldn't find any better way to phrase it. As expected, the girl who had spoken to me earlier raised her voice. "We've been told by teachers and grandparents not to follow strangers." As I was racking my brain over what to do, Elizabeth seemed to remember something and asked the girls their age. They said they were 9-year-old twins and seemed to live nearby. After a moment of thought, Elizabeth scrolled through her phone's camera roll and showed them a photo of 2 girls. The twins' eyes widened. "Wait, that's Stacy and Katie. So, you're classmates with my nieces." Nieces? Elizabeth has a sister about my age, who has 2 daughters, Stacy, 9, and Katie, 11. Since my sister-in-law's family lives in this area, it seemed like a fortunate coincidence. Suddenly, the sister's wariness began to melt away. I'm Stacy's mom's sister. Really? Yeah, it's dangerous to stay out here, so why don't you come to our place for now? Perhaps because they realized we were related to a friend's parent, the girls exchanged looks and then slowly nodded. I thought it was best to contact the police immediately, but protecting them was a priority. So, I invited them home. Their names were apparently Emma and Claire, with Emma being the one who had spoken up confidently to us, and Claire, who had remained silent behind her sister. They looked so alike, being identical twins, that it was hard to tell them apart. They hadn't eaten anything since lunch at school, so we gave them some water and prepared a bath for them to use. While they bathed, I laid out some guest mattresses, and Elizabeth prepared some light snacks. After their bath, the girls eagerly ate everything and fell asleep within minutes, worn out from the day. The next morning, before 6 a.m., as I was getting ready for work, Elizabeth, with a serious look on her face, said, "I want to live with those girls." I was surprised by her sudden statement, but after listening to her, I could understand why she felt that way. Elizabeth had talked to her sister on the phone last night. When she mentioned Emma and Claire, her sister said, "Oh, they are well known," and filled her in on the details. Apparently, the girls are the daughters of a notorious couple known for bad behavior in school, but most people don't really know much about their parents. In our area, school meals have to be paid for, and it seems Emma and Claire often couldn't have them because their parents didn't give them the meal fees. However, their teacher, worried about malnutrition, would share his own meal with them, and classmates would share foods they didn't like, so they somehow managed to eat. How did they manage to live under such harsh conditions? It was largely thanks to their grandparents. An elderly couple was frequently seen visiting their house, likely to be grandparents looking after them. Their parents often went out in flashy clothes, and recently, even the neighbors hadn't seen them. Though it wasn't clear if this was true, when I asked Emma for confirmation, she nonchalantly confirmed it. "Yes, we haven't seen Mom and Dad for about a year now. Grandpa and Grandma used to come by, but they didn't show up yesterday." "Where do your grandparents live?" I asked. "They live in public housing about a 10-minute drive from here," they told me. Elizabeth was swamped with taking over the clinic, only having Sundays and Thursdays off. And today being Wednesday, I decided to take the day off work to visit the girls' grandparents. I thought about contacting the police, but the girls seemed to indicate their grandparents were responsible people. So I decided to check on the grandparents first and quickly got ready to leave. After a 10-minute drive, we arrived at the public housing where the grandparents lived. Emma led us to their apartment and pressed the doorbell, but no one answered. While waiting, a middle-aged woman from the next apartment came out. Recognizing the girls, she informed us that their grandparents had been taken away in an ambulance around noon yesterday and might be in the nearby medical center. I was met with suspicious stares, but when Emma stated, "He's our guardian," the tension was diffused. At the medical center, after explaining the situation, they allowed us, as family, to visit the grandparents. I was led into the ward under the guise of being the guardian of the young sisters. We were led to a 4-bedroom, with 2 beds empty and their grandparents lying in the beds by the window. The grandmother, who was awake and saw us, allowed the visit. The grandfather appeared to be still asleep. "We're so sorry to have caused you trouble." The grandmother began apologetically. "No, not at all. I'm just glad we could meet, actually, about yesterday." I briefly explained what had happened the day before. Hearing this, tears started to roll down the grandmother's cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Emma, Claire. I'm sorry we were hospitalized, and you couldn't get in because we had the keys." Apparently, They had eaten some bad food around noon the previous day and unfortunately got sick, leading to their emergency transport. Their condition had stabilized, and they were expected to be discharged today. However, they had been incapacitated by abdominal pain for a while and hadn't been able to go to the girls. They had kept the house keys to ensure they wouldn't get lost, but that had backfired. I was relieved to hear that the grandparents were decent people, unlike the parents. Emma's confidence probably stemmed from knowing her grandparents would never abandon them. For now, my role as a guardian would end once the grandparents were discharged, which was a relief, though it didn't align with Elizabeth's wishes. However, the grandmother looked troubled. And then, she spoke slowly. To be honest, we're in a tight financial situation. My husband and I have been self-employed, but our daughter and her husband took all our assets. Now we're living on just our pension. I should be offering you a reward, but that's difficult for us. No, you don't need to worry about that at all. If they're receiving a pension, they must be at least 62 years old. I thought about suggesting they live together, but it wasn't as simple as that. Moving the sisters would change their school district since the public housing where the grandparents lived was across a bridge. Changing young children's living environment could be stressful. And even if they could live together, there was no knowing when the grandparents might fall again. Surely, the grandmother must be worried about that. If they fell again, there would be no one to take care of the girls. Seeing their worried expressions, I couldn't keep quiet. May I speak frankly? What is it? My wife and I would like to adopt Emma and Claire and take full responsibility for raising them. Both the grandmother and the listening sisters were visibly shocked by my statement. Naturally, they'd be wary of someone they just met offering to do such a thing, and I didn't expect immediate approval. Of course, I planned to consult the appropriate authorities and proceed with the proper procedures. I just couldn't bear the thought of leaving them alone. Perhaps because they reminded me of myself when I was younger. My parents raised me with great care, but we lived in extreme poverty until our family business took off. Despite being financially strained themselves, they bought me a warm quilt in the dead of winter to prevent me from catching a cold. My wife and I don't have children, but I just couldn't stand by and do nothing about Emma and Claire. For the time being, I decided it was best to end the conversation there and head home. With the grandparents discharged from the hospital, it seemed Emma and Claire would be spending their time in that public housing for the moment. However, the situation took a sudden turn 6 months later. After discussing it with my husband, we've decided to entrust the girls to you and your wife, the grandmother said. What? It's not only that we're impressed by your genuine concern, but also a matter of trust. Over the past 6 months, you and your wife have met with us several times to express your intentions. Haven't you? We could see that you truly care for our granddaughters. That's why we believe we can entrust them to you. Besides, the fact that Elizabeth took over her father's clinic and had become the director played a role. Moreover, the grandparents have been greatly helped by Elizabeth's father. Above all, what sealed the decision was something Emma said. If it means Claire, Grandpa and Grandma can be safe, I'm okay with anything. Plus, that man was kind, and the lady is Stacy's mom's sister. And she's a doctor, you know. Stacy is my best friend, so it's all good. Thus, with the involvement of child welfare services and the police, we finally managed to contact the sisters' biological parents. When we mentioned the possibility of adoption, the parents' representative quickly agreed. After several months, we were finally able to officially become a family with Emma and Claire. Elizabeth, now a practicing physician, was busy every day. Adding childcare and household chores to the mix made things chaotic. Emma, Claire, you forgot your gym clothes and lunch bags. While frying eggs, I watched my wife and children scurry about. We initially shared household duties, But with Elizabeth working late and on Saturdays, I took on a larger share of the chores. That arrangement was mutually agreed upon. So I was usually in charge of cooking. Drawn by the smell of breakfast, my wife and children packed their bags and joined me at the table. Ah, this is delicious. It's been a while since we had something not microwaved. It's really good, thank you. The twins, identical in appearance, sparkled with excitement as they complimented the meal. Apparently, they were used to reheating meals prepared by their grandparents, so freshly made food was a treat for them. They were also happy to finally have their own portions of school lunches, and I heard their teacher, Miss Thompson, was moved to tears by the news. Despite their parents' unforgivable behavior, the warmth of the people around them allowed the girls to grow up well-adjusted. It was now my responsibility to continue guiding them until they became independent adults. I was determined to fulfill this duty. Since my family owned a bakery, I decided to visit on weekends to update them. We had been too busy to inform my parents about the adoption. So, when they suddenly found out they had granddaughters, they were shocked but quickly embraced them, teaching the girls how to bake bread and enjoying quality time together. A year after Emma and Claire became part of our family, our lives gradually settled, and the girls began to open up to us more. Emma, always the more reserved, began to show more childlike behaviors appropriate for her age. "Let's go play basketball, Father." "I'm not sure I can keep up with your energy, Emma." "Come on, it'll be fine." Feeling the tug of her small hand, I was deeply moved. Interestingly, they call us father and mother, possibly to differentiate from dad and mom, which might remind them of their biological parents. They were happy to eat the same school lunches and use the same textbooks as their peers, enjoying a normal childhood. Eventually, both girls graduated from elementary school, with Emma attending a public middle school and Claire a private one. Living together helped us understand their personalities better. Emma was lively and good at basketball. On the other hand, Claire, while not fond of physical activities, consistently tops her class with her innate intelligence. Furthermore, she seems to be doing well in the marching band she joined. Everyone aware of their past hardships celebrated their growth. As twins, they faced their educational transitions together. But Emma chose a public middle school with a strong basketball program, satisfied without pursuing entrance exams. Claire, feeling hesitant about progressing to a public school while her sister opted for it. Emma had been offering her positive and kind words. "Claire, you're better at studying than me, so you should go to a private school. Then, I can brag about how my sister is super smart and attends a prestigious private school. And to make you proud of me, I'll work hard in basketball and aim for the national tournament." Hearing her sister's words, Claire was convinced and successfully got into a challenging private middle school. Even before we met, these sisters must have been living by complementing each other's deficiencies. That was evident from their conversation. Time flew by quickly, and the children turned 18. They had become fine adults. Claire managed to get into a medical school after acing her university entrance exams. On the other hand, influenced by her sister, Emma also chose to pursue a career in medicine. She decided to go to a nursing school. Recently, I think they both have started to resemble Elizabeth a lot. Elizabeth, who never skimped on household chores despite being busy. Especially, her love for the two was very profound. Receiving such affection from their mother, they naturally became good at household chores without being taught. On Mother's Day and Father's Day, they would use their part-time job earnings to buy gifts or invite us to a lavish dinner, making Elizabeth cry tears of joy every year. I, too, felt a lump in my throat, realizing how sincerely and kindly they have grown up. Of course, there were rebellious phases, but that's an important time for growth for both parents and children. After those solid clashes, now I believe our family of 4 is tightly bonded. And finally, 15 years after taking them in have passed. At 24, it was time for them to leave home. Claire had passed her medical licensing exam and was going to work as a resident in a distant hospital. Emma was getting married to a man she had been dating from the Navy. The time for farewell, which was bound to come, had arrived. Elizabeth managed to hold back her tears and gave them the biggest smile she could muster. Then, Claire, who had been fidgeting, ran to Elizabeth and hugged her gently. "I'll definitely become a wonderful woman like you, Mother. Thank you for teaching me so much about love." With an untroubled smile, Claire's eyes were moist. Following that, Emma also held Elizabeth's hand and said, "Stay healthy, Mother," as the 3 shared a tight hug. Then, turning to me, Emma said, "Father, thank you for doing so much for us." Claire added, "I'll become a great person like you," and with that, the 2 left home. Claire is still single, but as she steps into society, she'll surely live in a new home with a wonderful husband. And Emma will create a family with a kind-hearted young man, and someday, they will have children. I watched their departure with a blurred vision. After a while, an invitation to Emma's wedding arrived. Of course, I informed them of my attendance, and on the day of the wedding, next to Emma, who was clad in a pure white dress, Elizabeth was shedding tears. It was then that Claire said this. "Actually, I've been hiding this, but I've been dating someone since my student days. I'll introduce you sometime." Hearing this, we looked at each other and chuckled. The venue was filled with a celebratory mood, everyone eagerly awaiting the entrance of the bride and groom. But then, an unexpected incident occurred. An uninvited person arrived, causing a commotion among the reception staff. Upon inquiring, it turned out that a woman claiming to be Emma and Claire's mother had barged in. "Elizabeth, wait here, it might be dangerous," I said. Unable to stay put, I rushed to the reception. There, a middle-aged woman in tattered clothes was present. "Let me see my daughters. I am Emma's mom, you know. Claire is here too, right? So I have the right to meet them and attend." She was making a scene in a shrill voice. I wondered how this woman knew the whereabouts of the children she had abandoned 15 years ago. Then, a staff member at the venue informed me. It seems she works at a nearby florist, maybe part-time, and when Emma, the bride, came to see the flowers herself, she immediately noticed their resemblance and connected the dots based on their names. That's how she knew about the date and had the audacity to show up today. What are you thinking? Trying to act like Emma and Claire's mom now? Don't you remember what you did to them 15 years ago? My voice trembled with anger. Then, with a shadow in her eyes, she said, "I regret abandoning them at that time. My boyfriend back then told me the kids were in the way. My ex-husband, who I had cheated on, dumped me immediately and cut off all contact. As I got older, I was cheated on by my boyfriend too, and all that's left for me now are the children." I was so astounded by her selfish reasoning that I went beyond anger to disbelief. So in the end, she cheated, got divorced from her ex-husband, and then was abandoned herself. Now she says all that's left are the girls. Enough already. As I raised my voice, she flinched and cowered. "How can you be so selfish? This is all the result of your own actions. You have no right to call yourself a mother." As I said this, my fists began to tremble, and I felt an impulsive urge to act. At that moment, Emma, in her wedding dress, came over and called out "Mom." Upon seeing her mom, the mom, with a gaunt face, brightened up and said yes, as she stood up and started to rush towards Emma. I felt frustrated, wondering if we, as adoptive parents, couldn't match up to their biological parent. But then, Emma smiled briefly before turning serious and said, "Mom passed away a long time ago." Her mom stopped in her tracks at the sudden statement, but Emma continued unfazed. When we were officially adopted 15 years ago, you both agreed, right? Or rather, it seems like Dad had already given up on us, including you. From what you've just said, I guess it was convenient for Mom's boyfriend to have us out of the way for adoption. From that moment, my mom and dad were as good as dead to me. The only people who have a right to be here today are my father and mother. Please do not enter. Hearing such words from her own daughter, the mom became enraged, her face turning red as she screamed incoherently. I was the one who gave birth to you. Do you have any idea how hard it was to carry and deliver twins? Why don't you understand? I wished she would keep her presumptuous gratitude to herself. Having children isn't a goal, it's the start. The moment she abandoned that responsibility, she lost all right to expect gratitude or understanding. In the end, the noisy mom was escorted out by security. The mood had become awkward, but Emma, with her inherent brightness, managed the situation. I'm glad Claire and Mother weren't here. If they were, they would surely have been crying and hurt. Let's get back to the wedding preparations now. Excuse me, staff, I'm sorry, but could I have a moment to touch up my makeup? Revived by Emma's words, the staff exchanged looks of agreement and hurried back to the dressing room. Emma then turned back, not with the dry sneer from before, but with her usual gentle smile, saying, "Father, make sure you get a good look at me today," and left with a thumbs up. True to her word, Emma held a magnificent wedding ceremony that moved everyone present. Elizabeth was so moved by the bride's letter that she was wiping her nose in tears as she listened. Watching my fully grown daughter, I thought that if we hadn't taken in those two huddled behind a cardboard box back then, this future might not have existed. After the successful wedding ceremony, reception, and after party, the day came to a close. As we were about to leave, the two of them stopped us. "You two are our only parents. We love you forever. Father, Mother, take care of yourselves." Elizabeth hugged Emma tightly, saying, "That's our line. We will always love you, forever and ever." Claire and I watched the two from behind. Then, Claire whispered something to me. Though I was surprised by what she said, I placed my hand on her shoulder and told her, "You got this," and she smiled softly. A few years later, Elizabeth, having reached 60, stepped down from her position as hospital director, and Claire took over as the new director. Having suffered from allergies like rhinitis since childhood, Claire was concerned about the scarcity of otolaryngology clinics in the area once Elizabeth retired. She had decided to become an otolaryngologist herself and carry on Elizabeth's legacy. On that wedding day, Claire had told me, "I plan to take over Mother's hospital. Professor Johnson's and seniors say I'm skilled and decisive, so surgery suits me. But I still want to be a doctor like Mother. Surgery might be more lucrative, but I want to be a doctor who can empathize with patients. Just like Mother. That's something I absolutely won't compromise on." Later, Claire introduced us to her boyfriend. He was a classmate from medical school who had chosen internal medicine. It seemed he shared the same aspirations as Claire. Thus, Elizabeth's hospital was reborn as a clinic capable of providing both otolaryngology and internal medicine services after the renovation. Because it now housed departments frequently visited by the elderly within the same facility, everyone was pleased that the new doctors had taken over. Elizabeth is now living a more relaxed life, free from the demands of her job. I'm also considering early retirement and am currently busy handing over responsibilities to my juniors and subordinates. Amidst all this, Emma gave birth, making us grandparents. Claire, too, now that the clinic has settled down, is planning to formally marry her partner, so we're surrounded by joyous news. Elizabeth said, "Can I really be this happy? It's almost frightening how happy I am," to which I confidently responded, "Of course, it's all right. Do you remember what we did 15 years ago? We saved 2 children, there's no doubt about it. We rescued them, and in turn, they brightened our lives. This happiness is the result of everyone's feelings coming together. It's only natural for us to be happy." Hearing this, Elizabeth smiled happily. When we visited Emma's house some time later, I noticed red sweet peas adorning the room. As I looked at them, Emma, with a downward gaze, shared, "I hadn't seen her since that wedding. It seems she quit the florist shop, but when she left, she told the owner, if those kids come, please give them this, and that was this." I knew the language of sweet peas, as it's quite well known. Indeed, they symbolize farewell. Emma continued, "It's not just any farewell, but the kind you give to someone important when parting ways. In her own way, she must be starting to atone for what she's done. We'll probably never forgive them, but you know, flowers are innocent. So, I thought I'd take care of it until it withers." It was so like Emma. She's a person of integrity and, more than anyone, can empathize with others. While we are her parents, those people were her parents too. At least the mom had some semblance of affection. But they are no longer relevant to us. By the way, Claire is going to have a wedding with her fiancé soon. Really, since they're both doctors, I wonder if it'll be a grand celebration. They're planning to have a small ceremony with just family in Hawaii, and then a reception back here. Ah, that sounds lovely. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, Lily is crying. Father, why don't you hold her? Prompted, I cradled my granddaughter in my arms, admiring her adorable face. And as the sweet peas wilted, Emma and Claire stopped talking about their mom